Hello, and welcome back for the reading called The Book of Revelations and Self Empowerment. This is lesson number 8, and it's called Acknowledging and Identifying Disconnectedness and Detachment. So that can take shape in many different forms, but for the most part, this is referring to a relationship or a partnership. It can be professional, but more so it will relate to personal or romantic relationships. So identifying disconnectedness and detachment. So this would tend to be probably a long-term relationship applied accordingly. But it would take on the energy where pretty much one person would be solely responsible for keeping the relationship together. When I say detached or disconnected, I mean this person, whoever you're with, would have absolutely no emotional connection with you whatsoever. You would be more a tool or someone they can use, or someone who would be always running and fixing and looking after and doing, giving, and they do all the taking, unfortunately. And normally this does not become identified very easily within the first part of the relationship. This will come throughout years together and finally realizing that maybe you're being played for a fool and essentially being used or taken advantage of. It's unfortunate when this particular type of reading shows up, but unfortunately for a lot of people out there, this will be the case for a lot of people. And just acknowledging, realizing what's going on, and when you acknowledge and identify it, then you can begin to fix and you can begin to heal. Okay, so when I say detached, so this person would be detached emotionally and very, very disconnected emotionally, mentally. They're kind of a standalone character. It's everything about me, myself, and I, and you're basically there to care for them, cater to them, be used to their advantage, doing all their dirty work, those kind of things, taking responsibility for the everyday responsibilities or duties or obligations, tasks, those kind of things. And the first thing that comes to mind when I see this type of reading, it would be there would be no emotional support in any way, shape, or form. You would be doing all the emotional support probably for both of you. This could actually be to the point where you would actually have to beg or be after this person all the time to get some sort of emotional affection out of them. So begging them to say they love you, or begging them to say they like you, or getting anything good or kindness or generosity, but specifically no emotional attachment. There's nothing there. This would be probably reflecting back into their home or family life where they would have been raised as a child. So there's something going on in that family environment from previous years. Often that's where it starts. That's where it shows up. Often it can be definitely a learned behavior from home. Now that won't apply to every situation, but probably for the most part, it will definitely play a role. Okay, and so when I see this particular spread, I will introduce the cards as we go on here. But this person is not who they claim to be. We had this mask and this fish card show up in one of the last readings or two readings before, and it's kind of bizarre how they showed up again. This is not as advertised. This person wears many different faces, many different masks. They portray themselves on a dime, at the drop of the hat, wherever they are. They will switch or turn or be a chameleon and whatever situation or environment they're in to suit their needs. So they want to be seen a certain way by a certain crowd, by a certain place, by a certain environment. And then when you get home, that mask comes off and you see, like, I'm not going to say monster, but monster-like. This person, I'm not sure the best way to describe this, but would have a very, very, very dark soul, very, very heavy shadows within. This person needs a lot of inner work to overcome this. And when I see this person would probably have a lot of demonic possession. So I don't mean like, possessed in like crazy movies or anything, but possessed in the fashion of a very, very dark spirited, very, very hidden motivations. They are after something, they want something, they go after it in a hidden fashion. So very, very deceptive. And so like when I say demonic, I mean very, very negative energies, not who they claim to be, lie, steal, cheat, very underhandedness. And when I say dark, it is kind of borderline evil. Okay. And they're so good at wearing this mask, putting it on, putting it on, putting it on, and being the chameleon, changing colors whenever they need to. It becomes smooth, right? And they're smooth at their act, right? But eventually, the mask falls and it slips and it breaks, and you will start identifying this behind closed doors. And this is someone who would definitely play mind games with you. If you called them on it, they would probably say, "Oh, you're crazy, you're nuts," or "I didn't do that," and you fully known what they did or what they said. So that is referred to gaslighting. They'll say something, they'll do something, and you'll call them on it, and they'll say, "I didn't say that, you're crazy, it's you." And so, I mean, I've seen this behavior too over time. And so you know fully well their actions, their behaviors, their words, what they've said, what they've done. And so that right there, to me, that would be questionable conduct, questionable upon their character, not yours. And so I have encountered this. And so when that shows up as a red flag, that right there is a red flag waving, saying there's something not quite right here. And so it's like they want to twist it and put the blame on you when you know fully well that it wasn't. So that right there means there's something wrong with the character. Again, that dark, evil shadow, kind of possessed energy within. And they would probably have zero accountability for anything they say or do. They would, push the blame somebody else. There's no accountability. And this person, if it's a marriage or a personal relationship, it's more like the caregiver. There's no emotional connection, no emotional attachment. There's just nothing. It's a very, very selfish, self-centered person. Me first, and probably you never. Okay. And so it's a little disturbing, this reading, actually. And it's kind of sad because probably for a lot of you out there, you probably put a lot of years worth in, or a lot of time, or a lot of effort for absolutely nothing back, or very, very little. And again, it will probably come down to that split, that black and white is, you'll probably realize you give, and this person takes. And that probably will be the dividing factor. And beginning to acknowledge and understand how this person lives in disconnectedness or in full detachment of this personal relationship, okay? And again, when I see these particular cards, this would say to me this person lives in a non-reality world, their own world, or delusional world, delusional scenes and thoughts, but also a serious fantasy land area of life. The reality of life is just not there with this person. They kind of live in their own bubble, their own fantasy land, their own world of reality, which certainly is not reality for what you see it. Okay. And this person also would have many, many secrets. So I'm just going to read down my notes as I did this before I introduced the cards. And so this is saying use your resources exceptionally wisely. And so this will be pertaining around a lot of money, or money transactions, or assets, or material earthly goods. So do pay attention to what's going on there, okay? Use your money and resources wisely. And this can also be a reading of if you're thinking of getting ready to leave or pull the pin, or separations in mind, this would also be a reading of get your prepare your finances and those kind of things in the background. This is setting things up in the background, so that if that means like having an idea where you're going to live, or you're going to move, or setting up personal accounts so you have money at hand, setting up resources, basically creating a solid structure for what you're going to need after the point of leaving. That won't apply to everybody, but it will certainly apply to some. So if you're not doing it, you're thinking about doing it. Okay, so that just have your safety net and your journey, or your path, or your plan ahead started. So plan A, B, C, D, E, however that pertains, and however it works out according to your needs or your situation. Okay, and this person is a shapeshifter mask, and they're elusive. They're full of secrets and hidden things. There's things that you don't know about. Again, lives in fantasy land, a delusional world. They will just not accept reality for what it is. If you call them on the things they say, the things they do, they would lie about it. They would blame you. They would say, "No, I didn't say that. You're crazy. It's everybody else's fault but their own." and they would see themselves as probably absolutely perfect. Again, that's that fantasy land living, the rose-colored glasses, the head in the sand. It wouldn't matter how much you talk or if you went for counseling or therapy, it's just not going to sink in because this person is not open to reality. Okay. And that's unfortunate because in the end, these people, what they usually end up doing is weeding out people where they'll have absolutely nothing left to do with them. And they're left to be a lonely old person in time if they don't get into trouble in the meantime. Okay. And this person takes on many identities. Like I said, wears very, very, very many different masks to fit their environment. So chameleon-like. It's like, you could walk and be by their side and they walk into one environment and they transform or just morph into somebody different, like that somebody that you don't know. And again, this could actually pertain to multiple personality problems. Again, this is a possessed person within the soul, and apply that possession problem accordingly. Okay. And this can be like mental illness as well, or mental imbalances, those types of things. That's written all over this. Okay. And this can also, so much or many avenues and many engagements of gaslighting, and very, very heavy into the mind games, manipulation, okay? Okay, and there's something else that does come out. So it's got to do with a will. Okay, so planning a will or estate planning. There has changes that have been made. So I don't know if you've done it, they've done it, you don't know about it, it's hidden, it's secret, or you weren't supposed to find out about it. But there is some revisions or revising that is needed within a will or estate planning. Okay, so that's for somebody out there. I don't know who. Apply that accordingly. And if you're thinking, I don't really think that's me, that might be worth checking out, just doing a double check just to see if something's going on there. Okay, and you know what? I'm getting up. Something that just come up as I'm talking about wills and estates and amending and changing, whether that's good or bad, whether it's lies or falsehoods, being misled. There's something to do with life insurance. Okay, so that's something that just came up. And this is also to do about healing, emotional healing, mental healing, and taking responsibility to heal a relationship. And I don't mean heal a relationship because one person cannot carry a relationship. That's a two-man job, and that's meeting, halfway in the middle. Meaning you have to take responsibility for putting an end to the craziness or being with someone who there's never going to be an emotional attachment or an emotional connection. There's no emotional connection here. And so when I say take responsibility for the relationship, that means taking responsibility for the relationship, looking after yourself, and probably, unfortunately, calling it to an end. And this person, just do note, upon the time of thinking about leaving, that becomes quite a dangerous time zone. So that can be domestic violence linked, hopefully not, but there's a possibility. So do take extra precautions. If this is a problem with domestic violence going on behind closed doors, that's a possibility, men or women. That applies equally to both genders, okay? Okay. There's some serious decisions that have to be made here. And so I'm going to just travel and trek into this personal relationship a little bit deeper. So this is somebody who would make you feel less than, below them, maybe unsmart, or saying belittling words, very belittling to you. Gee, sorry about that. And making you feel less than for their power and control. They would probably make you feel like you need them and you can't live without them. That's a common thing there. So maybe if I say that the light bulb or the warning bells or warning flags might go off there. Creating dependency and codependency. That is how this person would control and hang on to you. And one moment telling you everything you want to hear, the next moment belittling you, calling you names, probably swearing, being belligerent. Those kind of things. So just, it's like that, that dark side. And then every once in a while it'll flash with the white side just to keep you coming back, So just do identify the mind games. That is really, really highlighted in this reading. Okay. And again, this person has a lot of inner very dark shadow work that has to be done. But chances are at this person's age, that's probably not going to happen. And remember, their demons and their possessions and their dark inner work, that's not something you can fix. It is not your responsibility. It is not your job. We all have that job on a personal level, and we all have our own inner work we need to do. You do you, and everybody else has to look after their own inner work. You can't fix somebody else, nor is it your responsibility, right? That's their responsibility. And no matter if you could, and no matter how you try, it's not going to work. Okay. That's something that has to be identified as per individual. And then that person needs to do their shadow work on their own. Okay. Not your responsibility. And you will never have any luck trying to do so. Okay. I think that's pretty much good for my notes right now. So we'll put those just aside for now. Okay, and we are going to introduce the cards. So we have the card 36, healing. And so when you have 36, that is a card of 9. So you are working on healing mental areas, emotional areas. And this is also about healing and taking responsibility for relationships. So this relationship, you've taken responsibility, probably a soul responsibility to keep it together. Now, this is pointing out in order for you to self-heal, this is a negative cycle that is probably coming to a culmination or a close. And that means taking responsibility for this responsibility to see it to a closure, to move on to a new, better cycle. This person is emotionally draining. They're mentally draining. They are physically draining. It's like you can never do enough to keep up. And they're demanding. They are needy. They are dependent, codependent. They will give the impression that you are dependent on them and you have nowhere to go without them. But in reality it's the other way around. This person is not stable. This person is not self-reliant. They are more reliant on you than what you are on them. And why do I say that? Because you would be the one doing all the work, all the obligations, taking all the daily tasks, the daily routines, regimens, doing all that background work. And when you're the one doing the background work, doing all the groundwork for this person, that means they have no expertise in it. They have no experience. They have no wisdom. They've done nothing to gain anything out of all that background work, but you have. So that right there is going to be your answer. That's going to be your solution to stepping out of this and getting on your own. And when you're on, you will do just fine because you have all that wisdom, experience, and all that knowledge behind you in order to step off and branch off into a new cycle. So in essence, what's going to happen is when you step out, this person will probably fall flat in their face because they're not used to having to do the grunge work, the groundwork, the in behind the scenes work. They're used to giving orders and everybody runs when they scream and holler or have a temper tantrum, and that would be you. So really you are gaining something good out of this. And at that point, you will fully understand how this person has become solely dependent or codependent on your part of this disconnected relationship. Okay, so at the time zone, you can sit back and watch this, and it's like clockwork. The whole world will implode around them as soon as you step out and make them take responsibility for themselves in every way, shape, and form. I'm not really given an indication that there's kids involved here, but that's a possibility for some. So it's not indicated in this reading. It's not showing up right now. Okay, so again, this here. So this is, when you're on your way to healing, finding solutions, resolutions, culminations, finishing up, calling it an end of a cycle, an end of a relationship. This is about kind of the glories of the peacock. To me, that is become where you start to shine. Okay. And so peacock, to me, it's a very healing, but it's a very showy card, and it's about pride, having pride in what you've done, pride in what you've accomplished. This has been a long, hard road for whoever's been in this relationship. Okay. So the next card we have is Bisous. And so this is the Hanged Man in essence. Okay. So this is a demonic card. And so this is always an interesting deck when I work with them because it's always like the possessed or the demon energies of basically every person on every soul. Do we act on it? No. We don't want to act on it. But some people, when I say about being possessed, this would be like the demon cards that would show up within the soul of this person. So this is where the work needs to be done, but they refuse to do it and they won't do it. Okay, so the Hanged Man, Bisous, teaches natural and planetary science. Lights corpse, lights above graves, and moves bodies so the souls may be stolen. Again, so that's why I say a very possessed person in very demonic ways, possessed with negative actions, negative thoughts. Again, this can be, and I guess, and definitely wearing masks. So when souls are being stolen, that's very, let me see, that's about as bad as you can get, right? So stealing identities is something else that would come to mind. Theft, stealing, again, wearing false masks, those kind of things. and having many, many faces. That chameleon-like person. And this is right beside the masks. And so this is a mask. This is card 40. And so this is where it's chameleon-like. It's masked. They're not who they say they are. It's not as advertised. They're chameleon-like. They take on a different morph, a different shape, a different personality, with each person they're around, group, or environment. They're very, very calculated, right? Very manipulating, but eventually these come to self-implode and they do sink over time. That's not a successful path. As much as this person thinks they're on top of the world, they can control everybody, eventually that implodes. And pretty soon the structures that they've built their entire life on, it's like it slowly starts chipping away till every foundation in that life they call their life is completely broken away, and that whole thing crumbles and implodes, and then you're caught or you're seen or you get revealed for who you are, and everything, life falls apart. Again, that complete destruction, like that's Plutonian energy, okay? And when we have this right below, this is the fish card 34. And so every time I see this card, this can be a three-way party. This can be third-party involvement. Now, third party can be a person, but keep in mind, third party can be a money or possession or assets or possessions problem. So this person would certainly value money over you, money over love, money over relationships. The money is a number one priority to this person. So this could be a constant battle within this relationship, a battle over money, control of money, or they will go after the money over you any day. They're money hungry. Possession hungry, meaning assets and earthly goods, material goods, those kind of thing. And also when I see this card below the mask, again, that just screams Pisces energy to me. And there's nothing wrong with Pisces, but because just remember, every zodiac sign has its light and shadow side. So this is delusionary energy, elusive energy. It's very, very, very deceptive energy, okay? It's not who they are. It's not who they portray. There's always deception in every level of what's going on. So again, I would put warning out there to do with wills, estates, and also do with money, assets, titles of land, titles on vehicles. That's something, if you haven't checked into, you might want to, because if you would ask them whose name's on whatever title, they would tell you what they want you to hear, and just assume that you would accept it as true face value. So you cannot take anybody for face value when these cards come up. And again, this is also swimming. It's watery energy. It's elusive. This is head in the sand. Again, that fantasy land or out to lunch or spaced out energy, living in their own world of reality, which is not what reality actually is. And that is kind of the scary part. When you have this particular trio, it's this, there would be no limits to this person's thinking. There's no limits to the deception. There's no limits to what they will or will not do. And that makes it a little concerning. So again, I will touch on if there's any sort of domestic violence or any sort of threats or feeling unsafe. This would be definitely safeguard. Let friends and family know maybe what's going on. And if you're ready to make your move on out or not, this is something that should be shared with a close family member or a friend. Okay, so just so people have an idea what's going on behind closed doors. It's not always the easiest to talk about, and it's a little disheartening. It can always be quite disappointing or even embarrassing, but it's something that needs to be said. So I will put high warning, high caution around this relationship. This person is not going to let go easily, because you're kind of their rock. You're kind of their, well, essentially, I shouldn't say this, but you're basically their maid. Your caregiver, you're their maid, and you're basically their tool. And without that tool, they can't survive. And when you threaten their survival or their image of themselves, that's not going to go over well. Okay. So this is going to be a severe reality check for this person when this goes down. Okay. Okay. And so the next card we have is See Through It. I'll show you this card. This is another shadow deck, which is always a really nice deck. It's a reality check. Those areas that need to be worked upon are things you need to do. So see it through. You don't always finish what you start and then talk badly to yourself because of it. Break the karmic pattern by seeing a project through to the end and be proud of what you have accomplished. Okay, I'm going to read that again. See it through. You don't always finish what you start, and when you talk badly to yourself because of it, break the karmic pattern by seeing a project through to the end and then be proud of what you've accomplished. This tells me that maybe you might have thought of leaving more than once, or if you left once, you've come back. So this is something giving warning that if this has happened multiple times, it needs to be seen through the end to a completion. And so when we look at this, you know exactly what's going on. So that state of awareness or understanding the disconnectedness or the detachment within this relationship, you see this because when you see these cards, you're looking right at this person with wearing the mask. And you're seeing through their colors. You've seen through these colors quite a while by the looks of it when you get to this end of the cards. So some you might be seeing it, some you might be mid-stride, and some of you may have left and come back, left and come back. This is saying a card, see it through to the end and be done. Okay, and so this is the card of enabling. This has come up multiple times in previous readings as well. Okay, and this is saying, this is looking right up at this mask, looking at this delusionary, spaced out fantasy land world this person lives in. You're looking at it, you see it, you're seeing it two different ways. You need to see it through to the end, but you have been enabling this to continue, and you with good-heartedness and with being good-natured, probably a good sense of humor, you probably been doing this the whole time. First of all, you'd have been doing it because you thought it was the right thing to do. And then as time goes on, you realize we have a problem. And then as time goes on even more, you're not actually helping the problem. You're enabling the problem to continue with this person for whatever reason. So it might be a comfort zone. Like you think, okay, well, I'll just put up with it because I have a house, I have a home. It's what I know. I don't want change. I'm not willing to change. So just do know the difference between helping the problem and enabling the problem to continue, because that's two completely different perspectives, okay? So enabling. There is someone you're helping, or are you? In reality, you may be enabling them to continue in a negative pattern and never take full responsibility for themselves. Step back and let things play out. Again, you have, or you're going to be becoming aware that you've actually been helping this problem continue. You're letting them get away with it. You're doing all their groundwork. You're taking on all their tasks, all their obligations, all their life responsibilities. And so, when this happens, you will eventually grow apart mentality-wise and growth-wise and evolution-wise. You will be growing at lightning speed because you're doing all that groundwork, that shadow work, that inner work. This person is just floating on your coattails, hanging off your back pocket. And so when that happens, you grow further and further apart, probably month by year by year by year. Pretty soon there's no commonality left. Probably becoming roommates, but in a very uncomfortable way in a house or a place you might own or live together. And again, you might come to the realization that you've been enabling it to continue, because as long as they're giving orders and you're running, you're actually enabling this problem to continue. You're not helping nothing, and you're not helping yourself, okay? And remember, you are not responsible for other adults' shadow work, dark work, inner work. That is as per each individual for all of us on a collective, okay? And this card is responsibility and accountability in life. You will be held accountable for all you do or don't do in life. Remember this. Again, so we have a responsibility. This is two things. You need to take responsibility to make your life better. Stop taking responsibility for somebody else, a grown adult. That's not your job. And they need to start taking responsibility and accountability for their lives. This is not going to turn out good for this person. The moment that someone quits catering to them, letting them use you or be a tool or just be an extension of, and when you're no longer, that they're codependent. When you cut that cord, chop that cord, they're on their own, and this is not going to fare well. This is someone who would probably be talking highly about themselves. They have a high opinion of themselves, but it's only because you've been doing the groundwork, taking all the responsibility for this relationship as time went on. So when you cut those cords, and they are faced with reality as it is, their complete identity is going to crumble and be crushed. Their world is going to crumble and be crushed. It's going to self-implode. This is going to be like a triple or quadruple reality check in every way, shape, and form. They are going to be forced to see reality as it is, not in their fantasy land. And again, that normally doesn't go over so well. Okay, so this is something you need to take responsibility for: your mental, emotional healing relationships, and that's relationship with self, and taking responsibility for this negative cycle, this negative relationship or partnership in life. There's something very, very wrong going on here, and I think you've pretty much put your finger on it. You've identified it, okay? Okay. And this is like X marks the spot. I'm just looking at my ball in the water here. There's going to be a line of no return. I see there's a very, very dark black and white boundary that's going to be crossed, and that's going to be where the final line strikes, where there's going to be a decision made. It's black and it's white. You've been sitting on that borderline for a little while, and there's going to be something that takes place that finally pushes you past the point of no return. Like they finally crossed the line of no return, however that works out for you, okay? And this person is very muddy. And you know what? I also see an eyeball in this crystal ball of mine. Actually, it's a gem ball. This person is watching you. I see that eye show up. It's like, they're watching your every move. This can also, with this, they're watching your every move. So whether it's your phone or your text message, you're probably going through your phone and looking at your phone calls, who's called, who you're calling, text messages, watching social media, and they might even be following you. And to some degree, this could actually involve stalking. When I see the eyeball show up in that ball, this might be something you're not aware of, but this person is watching you consistently 100% of the day, okay? And that's just something to be noted about. And so if this happens to be a problem, just do note that if there happens to be a parting of the ways, this is something you're really going to have to address and be very mindful of what goes on here. This is a person hanging on for dear life. I see an attachment. There's almost like an arm reaching out where it's not wanting to let go. It's very, very fractured. This relationship is very, very fractured. I see lots of lines, but this person would be hanging on for dear life with two hands. They feel you moving away, and they feel you detaching. So not only is it a detached relationship in one sense, but on the other sense, when there becomes a reality and you realize what's going on, they're going to feel that disconnected, because you're going to disconnect from them mentally, emotionally, physically. That happens over time, especially when there's a growing apart in the maturity levels or evolution levels, especially within spiritual realms or higher states of consciousness or awareness. When you grow apart, that's very, very common. And so not only has this been a long-term disconnected, detached, emotionally relationship, but when you see that, you're just kind of in it for the ride, or because it's comfortable, or because it's what you're used to, or you're there because, well, it's convenient. But again, that line's going to get crossed. And during this time, what has happened is you're starting to see their true colors. You're getting tired of it. The tolerance levels are gone. And so you will begin to basically disconnect and detach from this person mentally, emotionally, physically. And they can feel that. And I can see that hanging on for dear life. It's like a thread or two arms hanging on, or ropes or something trying to confine you. And again, this person's watching. So they have the feeling, they are feeling that moving away, that disconnectedness on your part. And there is a huge loss of interest. And they can feel that the loss of interest is not there, and the love has been broken. The love diminishes day by day. You might have love for this person. They have no love for you. They never did. You were a possession to them. I know that's terrible to say and terrible to hear, but the reality is, yeah. It's like where someone would mistake a marriage license or a common law relationship as an ownership. This person might actually have digestive disorders too. I can see that in here too. So stomach problems, intestinal problems, digestive problems. And I see a face in here. I see a face in this ball, and I want to say there's a third party involvement. Now, it doesn't mean romantic. It could, but there's somebody else sticking their nose in this particular reading. So I don't know who that is, but there's a third party involved. Like, again, it's not essentially an affair. It could be, an additional male or female, but if nothing else, it's an additional person sticking their nose into your affairs that does not belong there. Okay, so just a heads up about that. This is a very sticky situation, and it's a very tricky situation. This is somebody who's got probably serious mental problems, or chemical imbalances, or this can also involve serious depression. This person probably has too much time on their hands as well. And for some reason, I'm getting eggs in the fridge. Eggs in the fridge. Do you have eggs in your fridge? This person has a lot of inner turmoil. And if this was me, I would go back into just looking into generational family karma with this person. So again, repeating family cycles, karmic cycles that keep on repeating in this person's family. That is, and they're saying, yes, that is exactly spot on. Okay, so that is going to close our reading. So this is actually, it's not going to close our reading. I'm going to do a 3 or 4 card spread from tarot. And so every time I do this, it always, oh, look at this, 2 hangmans. Wow. Okay. Our basically our, we're going to take all 4 of them because they're right here. Okay, so this is basically our advice from tarot. So this is interesting. So hangman, look at this. We have 2 cards, hangman, from 2 completely different decks. So this is saying something. You need to take a different channel of effects, a different chain reaction, a different plan, a different view, a different, just seeing things differently from a different angle. And lots of times when this card pops up, this also says to me that you might want to ask somebody else who maybe has had a similar experience for help or advice. And again, this is, cover all your bases. This is somebody who is very manipulating and plays games. This is not somebody you can take for face value. So don't believe everything they're said because you're being conned. Here we go. Queen of Swords, yay for you. This is cutting somebody out of life that does not deserve your time, your energy, your affection, your love, or your hard work. Okay, so she speaks her mind, and this is where you have come to that point in life where you have cut out all the emotions, because there's a fair share of detachment at this point in time with this relationship, where emotions are set aside. There is no emotion left. Love is completely gone. Trust is gone. Respect is gone. Honor is gone. There is no dignity left in this relationship. And this is putting your emotions aside and making decisions basically on your moral compass based on facts, not feelings, okay? And the time has come where when she shows up, she's cutting things out of life. And you see this, we actually have 2 peacocks. So there's 2 peacocks in these cards, and that's really, really cool that would happen. Again, you're going to start shining your own bright light. You don't need this person. You never did need this person, but they would have convinced you that you did for whatever reason. You will have the strength. You will have the courage, and this is a lot of wind. This is a very hurled, windy, very active relationship. So meaning this person could never stand quiet peace. Peaceful surroundings, a peaceful environment. They're never happy unless they're creating problems, turmoil, drama, conflict. And I say that because you have the hurling leaves in this. So that's, coming to the realization that they're their own worst enemy, and they become anybody's worst enemy they become involved with or engaged with. And you've seen through that. And it's time to put an end to the craziness. So every day is crazy. Every day's crazy. Every day's out of control. They're not happy unless they're always having life in turmoil. They live for drama. They live for turmoil, negative energy. And then when we get this one, this is your course of action. So you do have some sort of course of action. It might not be in physical play. It might be, but you have something, a plan or an avenue or a chapter, a new cycle in mind. And you might have it started. You might not, but you're thinking about it. And so this is looking onto new horizons, your ships coming in, your plans coming to fruition, new passions, new cycles and things. You can see where, if you look very closely on, you can see the wands. There's new growth, there's new bright green growth on all these wands, which means it's a new cycle coming. It's a rebirth, it's a regrowth, it's a regeneration. This is kind of a fairly waspy relationship reading. And so again, I would definitely advise caution if there's any sort of domestic violence or issues going on behind closed doors, because this person will not quit until they think that they're going to keep what they want, get what they want, until everything's fully imploded. This is kind of like a watch your back, stay in the lighted areas all the time. Do keep an open eye over your shoulder, and do let somebody trusted know what's going on here. And you always want to have a backup plan B, and do basically watch over your shoulder. This person is not mentally stable, and they will stop at nothing to get their own way, because it's a saving face value, right? They just can't have that get out what they're truly like, and they don't want that, because at that point life comes to a standstill, it implodes, and they're going to have to restart over. And so when their image of themselves is shattered, brought down, and they're made held accountable for their actions and their words, that does not go over well. So just a heads up, do watch over your shoulder, take every precaution possible, okay? So now that will conclude our reading. So this looks really good. You're going to get some help, and it's time to start cutting out all the negative that doesn't belong in here. You will have the strength, you will have the courage, you will have the endurance, and you'll basically focus on yourself and keep, fiction out of this, keep your emotions out of this, use straight facts, straight common sense, and start wheeling that sword into better health, better healing, emotional wellness, and increasing and improving that relationship with self, okay? And again, you have everything you need here. You're the one doing all the groundwork, doing all the behind the scenes work. You will function totally fine in your new cycle, but the person you're leaving behind will not, okay? They're very, very, very dependent, codependent, demanding, and very, very smothering. So take it as it lands. And I do see that because they're following you around. They're looking at your media, social media, phones, whatever it is. They're keeping an eye on you. They might actually be following you around if you're doing errands, or maybe watching your odometer or something like that is coming through too. Okay, so that will close our reading. So until we talk again, stay happy, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. Bye for now. And so if you do like the reading, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and click the bell icon. And please leave a comment below if this actually pertains to you. It's kind of like it's a little bit of a raunchy reading, and it's proceed with caution reading as well. So I will advertise my Midnight Bisous Tarot channel, and I have my other YouTube channel, Seventh Heaven Junk Drawer, Soup to Nuts Astrology plus Health and Anatomy. And I have 2 Facebook groups, Midnight Bisous Tarot and Oracle. Midnight Bisous C'est La Vie Astrology, Jump Into Its Rhythm. I'm actually an astrologer by career. And I have an Etsy shop, Midnight Bisous Tarot, and I have cards and a dream journal book, and I sell cards for Jenny Florence out of the United Kingdom with her Art of Manifestation deck. So if you're looking for any of those, pay me a visit. And I have an eBay shop, Midnight Bisous Tarot, Oracle, and Astrology. So bye for now.